Toronto, Ontario, one of Canada's largest urban centres. It's no doubt that Toronto is a bustling, modern metropolitan city, the central hub of the nation's commercial, financial, industrial, and cultural life. But hidden within this concrete jungle is a piece of old Toronto back when the city was just beginning to grow. Let's go back in time and visit a piece of Toronto's history in present time. The Distillery District. One of the most well-preserved group of buildings from the Victorian era in North America. Back in 1831, James Wirtz immigrated to Canada, followed by his family, including his wife, William Gooderham's sister. Together, both James and William founded a partnership for a milling business called Wirtz and Gooderham. Today, the distillery is a National Heritage Site, and it is the buildings themselves that hold the stories that came before us here today. This is the oldest surviving building in the district. Designed by David Roberts Sr. and constructed in 1860, this building is composed of Kingston limestone. Lake ships and railway cars used to pass along what is now the Stone House Walk. This building was mainly used for milling, fermenting, and distilling, supported by an engine room and boiler houses. Over 150 years later, the stone distillery building still stands out from the rest of this group at the site. We now make our way to the Pure Spirits building on the east side of Trinity Street. This complex contains 7 buildings that are linked physically, functionally, and architecturally. This time designed by David Roberts Jr., these beautiful buildings were constructed in 1873 for alcohol purification and storage. Next, we turn our attention to the west side of Trinity Street, where we're greeted by a line of gorgeous Victorian architecture. Also designed by David Roberts Sr. and built around 1864, the Malt House and the Kiln buildings stretch across the west side of Trinity Street, providing a long, harmonious streetscape. The two buildings work together to produce the malt essential for making alcohol from grain. Now, once the business started to expand here, there was a great need for some storage space to house all that alcohol. The solution? The rack and tank houses that line Tank House Street. These buildings have a rather distinct industrial look and are now home to the famous Mill Street Brewery, carrying on the tradition of brewing and storing some great local beer. And that ends our journey for today, but these are just a few highlights of what's behind these old Victorian walls. The spirit of the distillery still remains within these buildings, but through modern boutiques and businesses that make the distillery an important part of Toronto culture, just as it was over 100 years ago.